of course one will agree to it, one will pull down into sense gratification, and then, but even when one is engaged in sense gratification, one will have consciousness, actually, I should not do this, this is not right. But as one goes on, Maya also covers you over. At one point you think this is normal, there's nothing else. One is miserable all the time, but one thinks, but that's life, there is nothing else to life, that's all there is. This is what life means. One's completely covered over and satisfied in the middle of a complete miserable situation. That's how one becomes an animal, basically. So Maya is very, very dangerous. Maya is very dangerous, and she makes us a slave. She makes us, that's why this idea also we see, in the modern world. There's so many movements for freedom. We want to have democracy, freedom, political freedom. Women should have freedom. Laborers should have freedom. Everyone should be free. But nobody is free. Everyone, because they're still slaves of the senses. Freedom starts with becoming free from being slaves of the senses. That's what freedom actually is. And a person who's not a slave of the senses can even be in a completely unfree situation. External circumstances, not a free situation, but he will feel completely free. Nothing can affect him. Haidas Thakur was just chanting Krishna's name, even though he was captured by the Muslim ruler and was beaten in 22 places. It didn't bother him. He went on. He was happy. He was completely. You see, this is just Krishna. I'm serving Krishna in this capacity. He was actually so happy I get a chance to serve Krishna like this. Who can be more fortunate like that? There was the example of Kures. Kures is a similar extreme example. He was captured by a king. He substituted for Ramanujacharya. The king thought actually they made a trick. You know the story. Yeah, and ultimately he was tortured and he had his eyes plucked out and by this king. And Kures was so happy. What an opportunity I had to please my guru by sacrificing my eyes and suffering like this. What a chance! And he was completely feeling the most privileged person in existence. So that's actually freedom. This is that. The freedom isn't. It's not even a trivial. Some have hard on the. For most people, it's actually quite a revelation that freedom actually means an inner state. For us, it's somewhat trivial, but then again, it's not, because we always have this demonic tendency to think that I must change the external circumstances, then I'll be happy, then I'll be free. But it's always an internal thing. If we don't feel happy, we don't feel free. That's because we are slaves of the senses, we are slaves of the mind. And when one is completely above the senses and the mind and simply acting for giving Krishna pleasure, then doesn't matter which circumstance one is in, one will always be completely free, completely happy. And that's and if one's not, this verse of course talks about sense gratification. One has to be completely free from sense gratification in order to be happy. We think sometimes in Krishna consciousness, I have a certain amount of sense gratification, and then I have a certain amount of Krishna consciousness. In this way, I will have a balanced life. But it doesn't. It's not happening. The sense gratification one is in will give one misery and frustration. There's no way. It's just a law. It's simply a law. It works like that. Then, of course, the danger is, and it's a dangerous thing to have mixed life with mixed sense gratification, mixed Krishna consciousness, because one will be quite frustrated. One will feel really unsatisfied, but then the danger is one will think, actually, this Krishna consciousness is making me miserable, just see. And this is why I'm frustrated. So therefore I should increase my sense gratification and decrease my Krishna consciousness. And that's how Maya gets one. When actually the very fact is the opposite. It's actually one has little happiness because one is practicing Krishna consciousness, and suffering because there is material activity. So one should decrease the material activity and more increase the Krishna consciousness, and actually come to the point of being completely rid of it. That's what we read in Nature of Devotion this morning. Rupa Goswami has been discussing that the devotional service has to be Anya Bilasita Sunyan Gyana Kamadi Navitam Nukulyena Krishna Nus Shilanam Bhakti Uttamam. That devotional service has to be completely devoid of all kinds of sense gratification, either gross sense gratification or subtle sense gratification on the minds, gratification of the the fruitive mentality is to get things and enjoy. I want to enjoy my senses. Want to enjoy this material world. The tendency of jnana, the mind, is to get free of misery. I want to become liberated and come out of this miserable situation. Both things have to be given up. Has to be one should have no desire for oneself, only for giving Krishna pleasure. Then one can taste what devotional service actually is, and then one can be happy. And otherwise, there's no way to become happy. It's not possible. It's simply not possible. There's no way to be free. By nature, we're not free. We are actually slaves by nature, but we can be Krishna's slaves and experience great happiness and enjoyment and freedom in that, or we become slaves of the material world. There's no other option. It's either or. We think we can have them both, but actually it's not. It is either or. And anyone who's not Krishna conscious actually is a slave of his senses. And that's why I said we look out. We're living in a country where people are not free. They're complete slaves. And although it's one thing, you can do what you like, but then you're a slave of what you like. That's the point. Like you have in Danish, actually Danish is very precise. Do what you like means du kan gøre hvad du har lyst til. You understand that much Danish? You understand? Yeah. But that means actually you're a slave. You can. It says actually in Danish, you can do what you have lust to do. That's actually the way you say you can do what you like. You can do what you have lust to do. Yes, you're a slave of your lust. Who gave you that lust? That's what it means. You're not free. You're actually a slave of lust. So everyone here are completely slaves of lust, and that's actually we see why. We live in a society where everyone are slaves. It's not only some like little etherical, but you can actually see really physically people are living like slaves, working hard, toiling for many masters who are using the people's labor for slavery. But really, why they are slaves is because they are ultimately just slaves of their own desires, their own lust. This is where the slavery comes from. And we can become free. We don't have to wait for the political freedom or economical freedom. That's another illusion. Modern world think economy is so important. So I make a lot of money, and then I have money, then I'll become free. We should learn from this example. Hiranyakasipu had plenty of money. He was not free. He was still a slave of his senses. We have to come to the point of just Krishna consciousness, living for satisfying Krishna, that's where freedom actually is. There's not freedom anywhere else. There's not happiness anywhere else. But there is freedom and happiness in Krishna consciousness actually. Any questions or comments?
And like Prabhupada's sister, I heard that her husband was eating meat, and so there are these sinful reactions when you purchase the meat and you cook the meat, you serve the meat and like that. But obviously she did not want to herself.
No, she didn't.
So like you were saying that this internal thing. So
yeah, her husband had a problem, she didn't have a problem. So that was his problem.
Yeah.
As far as concerned, gross sense gratification is fine. I mean, that is comes for the illicit sex proof, but when it's come to subtle consciousness, subtle sense gratification, does it still even count as illicit sex?
I mean, I talk about the regulative principle, illicit sex. No, you're not. I mean, you're not breaking. If you're simply striving for fame, prestige, distinction, like that, which is subtle sex life, you cannot say you're breaking the regulative principles but you're not tasting Krishna consciousness, definitely not. And it leads to gross sex life at one point. It tends to come, it will end up like that. The regulative principles we're following. They are, in one sense, they're not a spiritual level, but they have been pointed out to stabilize, to make us steady in Krishna consciousness. Because these gross sinful activities, they will they'll just completely destroy it, like throwing a bomb on our spiritual life actually. Throwing a hand grenade in the middle of our spiritual life will just the example is also given. It's like you're trying to start a fire, but you're pouring water on the fire. So it'll be very difficult to get the fire going when you engage in gross sense gratification. Subtle sense, there are many levels of more subtle sense gratification. One has to, you have to follow the regulative principles, and then continue rooting up all the other forms of sense gratification, more subtle forms of sense gratification. So they also have to be removed. It's not breaking the principles, but again, they cannot be maintained. They have to go also. Otherwise, they become weeds that grow and can choke our creeper of devotion if we allow them to be there.
Isn't it that the four regulative principles bring us to the mode of goodness, to the human platform, and then by the association of the devotees and by our chanting, the subtle sex life will be adjusted? Because it's not possible to have subtle sex life around devotees. It will be adjusted.
Yeah,
if we keep the association and if we chant.
Yeah.
What's the question?
What's the question?
It didn't sound like it, maybe.
No, it's just a statement.
Okay.
Isn't it? You're asking, isn't it so?
Yeah, that was a good
question. You say, yes, it is so. You cannot maintain in the association of devotees, proper association of devotees, then one will actually become a humble servant of the devotees, which is the only level which is, that's the only level of Krishna consciousness. It's the only natural level. It's the only level where we can be happy, when we still are maintaining desires for prestige, fame, distinction, privacy. I want my own little world where I can, then no, there's still different levels of sense gratification. In the association, devotees, I mean, that's, there's no other place where we can find, where devotional service can only take place in the association of devotees. There, it's the most purifying thing, the association of devotees. Anarthas will remain if we do not have association of devotees.
But we can see that there are many who have lasted for like many years inside the movement, but have not like really associated in one sense.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That like you can still be living in a place, but in one sense still without so much association. So
yeah, I mean, you can live in your mind and kind of withdraw yourself, but even then, if you continue living in the association of devotees will not tolerate it. Maybe for a while, but it will not be tolerated, and those will keep on, come out, become a normal human being, and start having a relationship to other devotees. It will come out. It may take long. I mean, it's a gradual thing, so it will take some time. But if one stays in the association of devotees, one will come to a level of purity. There's no way around it. Even many lifetimes, but it doesn't take lifetimes. It's a very process is very quick and effective in the association of devotees. But also one has to sometimes one searches out a lower form of association, even when it seems like it's association of devotees. But then, if you can find someone who is has the same kind of Maya as yourself, and you band together, and then you protect each other, say you are, yes, you are okay, and I'm okay, and I'll not point out your Maya, and you'll not point out my Maya, and this way we have a contract. That is not association of devotees. This is just mutual sense gratification in different form. Association of devotees. A devotee is not someone who has a devotee or a sari. As part of it, we should wear devotees and saris, but that in itself does not make us devotees. We can also be in a complete materialistic consciousness in a devotee, in a sari. So association of devotees means proper association, and it means searching out more advanced devotees, not someone who is, where one can be comfortable around. One has to search out more advanced devotees and and have their qualities reflect on oneself, and also their purity will rub off. I mean, they'll point out. By the example, by inspiration, one will be purified, and also they will point out this is a anartha. Get out of Maya and tell it to the devotees. So that's part of association of devotees, is that you've been told you're in Maya. This is not. Again, sometimes. Some kind of association that one again has this, we cannot tell each other that you're Maya. So again, that's not association of devotees, that's mutually protecting each other in Maya. It's hard for the false ego to be told one is in Maya. But that's part of the process. To get rid of the false ego means also the false ego will be pain sometimes. And if one is attached to the false ego, does not want to give it up, then one cannot be in association, and one will not be associating with devotees, and one will leave the association of devotees at one point, because devotees will point out to one, this is an anartha, you're still harboring this you allow me to remain this anartha. And then if we are foolish, then we will react with false ego, say, what does he, who is he? Who does he think that he is? And no, no, it's not true. I'm actually very advanced, I'm a very advanced devotee, and I don't have an answer, so why should they tell me? They're only envious of me. So then the false ego will react like that. But if one is intelligent, one will embrace it when someone is criticizing one. Because that's a chance to actually, I cannot see my anarthas myself. I'm deluding myself. I can see them, but then again, no, I'm deluding myself and become blind and telling myself they're not there, or actually, they're not so bad, they're not so big, or they're little. It's okay to have these desires and attachment. Doesn't matter. But this way one is deluding oneself. But others are not deluded. They can see this is a complete anartha, and it's not even gross. You think it's so subtle, nobody can see it. But everyone can see it. And so intelligent devotee will make sure that when there's corrections, jai. Then I have a chance to advance and become purified.
Does it also come to the sense gratification thing? Just for fanning the false ego continuously to advance level?
Is that sense gratification? Yeah. I mean, false ego is basis of sense gratification. Which it starts with ignorance. One identifies oneself as separate from Krishna and thinks one's satisfaction should be separate from Krishna. That's what the false ego is. One has a false identity and tries to be happy in that false identity. So, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Jai. Sri Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Jai.